we're landing at this base. I have no clue. I got my helmet on, I got my body armor on, I got my weapon on my hip. We land, and there's nothing. It's pitch black. Nothing's going on. Not getting shot. I'm like, what the hell? You're thinking everything you've seen in the movies and television. Like there's gonna be, fire everywhere.
Exactly.
No.
Bullets zipping by,
all of that. Now that comes later, but like in this moment, you get off this plane. They're like, run. So you like run to a bus. This bus drives you to a tent. You get into this tent. There's a bunch of chairs. You sit down, and it's like, welcome.
Everyone's playing poker.
Well, yeah, no.
Was it very anticlimactic?
It's very anticlimactic, and this like colonel comes in, and he's like, welcome. It's a different name now, but he's like, welcome to Tallil Air Base.
This is the Said No One Ever podcast, a podcast about things you never knew you wanted to hear about. I'm your host, Martin Moore. Let's get into it.
Welcome to another episode of the Said No One Ever podcast. I am Martin Moore. This is an episode that has been, I feel like, at least a year or two in the works. When did we first meet?
Oh man, it's been about 3 years now.
Has it been?
Going back to
because this is our third Bucks season.
Yeah,
or was our third Bucks season.
Old like Bucks Twitter days.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, let's get together, let's do this.
Let's do a podcast episode, and then I'm like, yeah, I'll get you on, and then like I just would never bring it up again, or we'd forget, or something.
We'd forget, or we'd like bounce ideas around, particularly with the Bucks season.
Yes.
It's like, hey, let's go talk about the Bucks, and then it gets depressing.
Exactly.
We're yelling at each other through text messages.
Right.
It's like, let's not.
I love our
go in front of a microphone, and then we're gonna be sad, for an hour and a half of like,
right.
Where are the Bucks at right now? It's like, oh, they're in an 8-game losing streak. Like,
right.
Oh, no.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah, let's do something else.
This is an episode that I've wanted to do for a long time. Obviously, like we just talked, it's one that, you and I have wanted to sit down and do for a while. And I really wanted to, I always wanted to sort of do this kind of episode, but I wanted to do it with someone who was willing to be open and honest and vulnerable and sort of share their stories and experience. And you obviously were the perfect person to do this. He's an Iraq War veteran, a Bucks super fan, and he's known in the Bucks social media world as Mailman Mike. He's got a degree in history. He's also a very, 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 very good friend. Mike Lang, what's up, buddy?
Hey, thanks for having me, Martin.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, this is great, man. I'm glad we got to do this.
So you're coming back from the Grand Cayman Islands, now it's pouring rain.
It's pouring rain. As we're waiting to do this, it just downpoured for 10 minutes, and I looked at the radar, and I was like, you got to be kidding. There's nothing
on my way here, all of a sudden, it just like started pouring like the end of the world.
Nothing.
And then you watched me drive past you like 800 million times.
Hey, man, hey, looking for parking. Like, come on.
Oh, man. So this episode is called Thank You for Your Service, Terms and Conditions Apply. And we'll get into that whole second part of it. But, I've always wanted to get into military service because it's one of the most honorable and patriotic and in many cases mentally and physically detrimental things that you can do and be a part of and engage in. And so I just want to sort of get into military service, why you decided to join, what that was like, and the main chunk of this conversation, what was it like coming back to civilian life and sort of how did that affect you, PTSD, and just all sorts of those types of things. So let's just start off. Why don't you walk me through like what motivated you to join the military? Was there some patriotic or altruistic reason you did it? Was it out of necessity? Did you not want to go to college? What was sort of like the impetus for joining?
We'll go on this journey because it's a little bit of an adventure.
Sure.
As a kid, I wanted to be a pilot or an astronaut. Like I was obsessed with space.
Okay.
And I was obsessed with it. By the time I got to high school, you kind of try to like figure out what you're going to do with your life, right? Like you have these counselors that are having you take classes and they're like, hey, let's, figure this out. So I started looking around and taking the college classes and doing this, and it wasn't really like my flavor at the moment, like all the, pre-college classes. And I was always interested in history.
Sure.
So I was taking
that I know.
Yeah, I was always taking these classes and I was doing very well, but I just didn't know what to do with my life to a degree. And I took the ASVAB test, which is to go into the military at the time. And
what is it called?
It's called the ASVAB. I think it might be changed now.
Gotcha.
But it's like a standardization test.
Okay.
That basically judges your mental acuity on where you would be placed in all of the branches of like jobs you could do, careers you could do.
So do you not get to choose what you want to do?
You do.
Okay.
So once you take that test, they give you your score back, and then they have a list of jobs per your score which you could do. However, they do it. I don't know how they do it now.
Gotcha.
But this, 25 years ago, it was you take this test, here are all these numbers. These numbers say you can do this job, down the line.
Okay.
So I take this test, I do pretty well at it to the point where in the Air Force, because that's where I enlisted, I could pretty much do whatever I wanted.
Sure.
So then after that, you go to military processing and you go through all your physical, they do all this stuff. In that moment, I come to find out I am color deficient in green. So
Are you really? Boy,
yes,
I didn't know this.
So I cannot.
You picked the wrong basketball sports franchise.
Yeah. The Bucks wear green, and I'm like, what the hell color is that? It messes with me. Like I didn't know this as a kid, right? I had no clue. I walked through the world like no big deal. Green grass, green stoplights, all
Sure.
that. I go and take this physical exam. They give me the eye vision test. I ace the eye vision. They give me the color vision. I fail it, and I had no clue. I was 16 years old. I had no idea. So they bring me in this room with this doctor, and he's like, hey, like, do you not know you're colorblind? And I was like, I'm not colorblind.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you are. Like, you can't do anything. Like, we're not letting you in.
Like, period?
Period.
Like, I can't even be a
You can't
paper
even
pusher.
You can't even be a janitor. You can't
deliver mail.
Right. Which that'd been cool if that
Yeah,
existed.
right.
But so they tell me you can't do anything. And I'm 16, I'm heartbroken. I'm like, what? Like, what is going on?
Sure.
Like, I'm physically fit. I played sports in high school. I was ready to go. So they bring me in another room, and I think the guy was like a senior master sergeant, some recruiter, and he's like, look, man, like, you failed color vision for all these things that you wanted to do in the Air Force, from being possibly a pilot to a drone operator to a missile systems guidance guy to all these high-tech jobs, which would have been great to experience before we get into the actual military stuff.
Sure.
It's gone in an instant. It's
really?
all gone. Like, basically the slate is wiped clean, and they tell me there's nothing for you. So we're going to just let you out of this. It's like a pre-enlistment enlistment. It's really strange.
So do you already like enlist and go through this process, or is this like something that you go to and like if you're like, I don't really want to do this, there's still time to back out?
There's still time to back out because you haven't signed your contract.
Okay.
But it's a way that like how they get recruits, they're like, oh, you're in this thing now. It's not that easy to get out. It's actually pretty simple. You just say, I don't want to do this anymore, and they have to let you out of it because you didn't actually sign a government contract to say,
okay, gotcha.
Here I am. Also, I was still a minor. Like, technically, I enlisted at the age of 17, so my parents had to sign a waiver to let me go.
You can do that?
You can do that. So
my grandfather lied in World War II.
That's the other thing. You go back to World War I, World War II. A lot of people lied about their age and just moved on. So I had to have a waiver signed when I was 17. So I still could have backed out because I could have said, hey, this isn't my choice. My parents are making this choice, whatever. So I go through this process. They take all of the careers away, and they say, if you wait like a year, there might be something else for you. So I waited a year, and I got 3 or 4 positions offered to me in the U.S. Air Force.
Sure.
And 3 of the 4 were absolutely garbage, like jobs that you should not go in the military to do. Like one was services, so basically, no shitting on services.
Sure.
I love you guys, but they like serve your food. They do hotel management. And do a couple other things, like laundry, things like that. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
One. The next job was pest control. So you'd have been basically an exterminator. But I'm not talking about like bugs. I'm talking about animals, like loose animals, stuff like that. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do that.
No, for sure.
There was another position that was like basically, you're just doing grunt work. You're doing landscaping, stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not going in the military to do that. I could go do that now.
Exactly.
And then the last job that was offered to me, which is the career I had taken on active duty, which was life support. So it was sold to me as basically as a teaching job. So you would be training survival skills and training air crew members out in the field and working on equipment, working with equipment. The real kicker to this, though, is since I'm color deficient in green, I had to work with night vision goggles. Now, night vision light is green.
That's green, yeah.
And I found that to be so funny because I'm like, so you're going to give me this position,
right?
But you won't let me do anything else with computers or missile systems or drones were brand new at this time. Drones, pilots, all this stuff.
Sure.
So I took it. And at the time, as I'm going through the recruitment process, I had the Army calling me, telling me, oh, hey, we'll let you come fly helicopters.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think that's a great idea. They're telling me I can't see.
It would have been sweet, though.
It would have been sweet, but I also didn't want to be in the Army.
Yeah.
Like, I took the Air Force for a reason.
Yeah.
I wanted to be as close as I could to airplanes. I wanted to fly. I wanted to do this stuff. Obviously, as a child, I wanted to be an astronaut. Now, I might not have been smart enough with the math to
Sure.
do that, but I still wanted to try, right, and attempt it. So I go through this process. I take the career. I turn 17. I graduate high school. And a month after high school, I go to basic training. And I'm off on my adventure. And I go to basic training, and this is the first time in my life that I'd been away from home for more than like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? I'm on my own. I'm still a kid. Right? Like, I'm not...
So you weren't 18 yet?
No, I was not 18. I turned 18 in basic training.
Okay.
So, like, I celebrated my 18th birthday by myself. Like, quietly in my bunk, like, happy birthday. You know, like, just that. Like, because you
having no clue where this new military journey was going to take
right,
you.
where it's going to take me and what
Sure.
it's going to do. So basic training was an experience because, I mean, we'd need a whole nother podcast for that.
Yeah.
Because I had the most insane experience to bring me into the military.
Sure.
So you're told, like, the military is this great, you know, patriotic, follow the rules, do all this stuff. I had my basic training drill instructor for like 2 days, and he's gone. He was removed and sent somewhere else. We get this other guy who was getting kicked out. He was getting kicked out of the Air Force to be our instructor, and he's pissed that he's getting kicked out because supposedly the story was he hurt another trainee and they got injured.
That's not ideal.
And the military's like, this isn't the 50s. We're not putting up with this anymore.
Sure.
So he's getting kicked out. He has no drill instructor hat, so he looks like us. He looks like just trainees with the hat. And he's basically pissed that the Air Force is like, hey, you're out.
Yeah.
So we lied on everything. Every test we took, physical fitness, written tests, everything, we aced them all. So when my parents came to graduation, we've got this like giant flag with all these ribbons. And my parents are like, you guys were like great. And I was like, no, we weren't. Like, this was the eye-opening thing for me because you're thinking like, you know, you're put up on this pedestal as a service member. And then you see people do things for their own self-interest. That's so insane. So we lie on all this stuff, and it sets your career up on this very strange path where then you go to your first duty station, and now you have this built into your brain like, oh, the rules can be bent, maybe even broken, and there's no consequence. And that goes
Which is
on.
almost antithetical to the military. It's such a regimented, by the book sort of institution. And so to find out that you can sort of hack that and cheat that, I'm genuinely shocked.
Right. And they get away with it. Right. So we got away with this entire time. And I'm sitting there in my head at this 18 years old, like, this is not what I thought was going to happen.
Sure.
So when I get to my first duty station, which I was stationed in Little Rock, Arkansas, I start to see the real military, right? Like, there's no regiment anymore. There's no marching. There's none of these games.
Yeah.
First of all, I was stationed in a mobility unit, so we deployed a lot.
Okay.
And that gets really out of hand in my story. But like, there's none of this. It's like a job. It's like a real job. You just come to work, you wear a uniform, you do this, and then you leave and go home. And then as time goes on, you start to see, you know, kind of the cracks in the armor where it's like, oh, it's not as glorious or bright as you thought it was. It's dirty. People are liars. People are cutthroat. People will do everything they can to make their career go further or make the next rank.
Is there a lot of sort of self-interest?
On active duty, yes.
Okay.
Because again, you're always in competition with someone else.
Okay.
It's not like the ranks just given to you. Like, I think the first 3 years your ranks are given to you by time. After that, it's all on testing. It's all on what you've done, like in community service, what other ribbons you've made, medals you've gotten, all of these things. So these people are in competition with each other always. So when you're on active duty, it's like, oh, I want to make that next rank and I want to make it as fast as possible because there's more money to be made.
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, the pay structure on active duty and as an enlisted person is not great. It's very low. Like, I don't have the statistics off the top of my head, but like a lot of service members that are on active duty are like on like WIC vouchers and getting that because again, their pay isn't high enough.
Yeah.
So if they have a family, they've got to somehow figure out how to make ends meet, while the military itself is giving you a housing allowance and a sustenance allowance because you don't get paid enough.
Yeah.
You don't make enough money to do real life things.
Right.
So it's always that cutthroat thing like, oh man, I got to make that next rank because it's going to pay me a couple $1,000s more a year.
Sure.
Like I want that money.
Sure.
And the same thing then comes to deployments. When you go to deploy, there is more money to be made, but also if you're in a combat zone, you're not paying state taxes and you're not paying federal taxes. So all that money is just sitting in your bank account or per your paycheck every 2 weeks. And you're like, hey, this is great because I'm not paying taxes.
Yeah.
And you're making combat pay, you're making flight pay, you're doing all these little extra things, and you're like, oh, this is great. Until you like really start drilling down what's going on around you, and you're like, I'm not making anything.
Yeah.
Like I'm
for what you're giving and sacrificing and contributing.
Right.
Compared to someone else maybe making the same money with a 9 to 5 that isn't in a combat zone.
But even in a combat zone. So I'll give you this example. So I spent over 500 days deployed to Iraq between.
Yeah, let's get into that. Where did you first deploy to?
So the first base I went to in 2005 was in a city called Nazariya, Iraq. It's in southern Iraq. It's where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meet.
What year was this?
This was 2005.
Okay.
So I get there end of February, early March 2005. I'm still 18 years old, and I have no idea. Like anything I've seen on television, I'm thinking that's what the war is going to be like. It's not. So I got to back up a little bit. This deployment was not my deployment. It was my boss's deployment. My boss somehow said he got hurt. He was a master sergeant who had been in the Air Force for like 22 years at this point, maybe 23, and he didn't want to go. So supposedly he gets hurt and he says, I can't deploy. Okay, they come to me with a 2-week notice and they say, you're going to war. So you have to like do all these steps to go to war. You have to get all your shots. You have to make sure you're preparation, arms trained, all these things that normally over time work out. The problem is when I got to Little Rock Air Force Base, we were so understaffed for the mobility unit that I was basically just shelved and worked on oxygen equipment for like 4 months before I went to war. So I go to war and I don't know what I'm doing. Like I don't know my job. I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Which is not ideal.
Well, for life support, like to save people's lives and to know how to save people's lives and then go do survival stuff.
Right.
You need to know that ahead of time.
Sure.
Like you need to have those skills down to a T. So you go to a tech school after you leave basic training. My tech school was 6 weeks to learn like multiple aircrafts, to learn fighter jets.
6 weeks.
Yeah. And
I have leftovers in my fridge older than that.
Exactly. And you have to learn so much so fast.
Yeah.
And the problem is you learn every aircraft. You just don't learn the aircraft you're going to go work on. You learn fighter jets. You learn helicopters. You learn all like the heavy airplanes. Like I was on a C-130, so you learn all about this. The problem is you purge a lot of that information in 6 weeks because you're moving on to the next class, the next class, the next class. So when I'm at Little Rock, you're supposed to get upgrade trained. They never started it because I went to war. So I go to war. I show up. I fly from Little Rock to Baltimore, from Baltimore to Germany, from Germany to Qatar, and then from Qatar to Iraq.
Oh my God.
So when I leave Qatar, I get on a military aircraft, and now I'm with all these other seasoned veterans, these Army guys, and I'm on an Air Force plane, and I'm with 2 other Air Force dudes that I know. One's a captain, one's another airman like myself. So I have no clue what the war is going to be like. So we get on this plane, and it's like something straight out of a movie. The red lights come on. They're like, put your gear on. Like, you're going in a hot zone.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's midnight. We're landing at this base. I have no clue. I got my helmet on, I got my body armor on, I got my weapon on my hip. We land, and there's nothing. It's pitch black. Nothing's going on. Not getting shot. I'm like, what the hell? You know, you're thinking everything you've seen in the movies and television. Like there's gonna be, fire everywhere.
Exactly.
No.
Bullets zipping
by, all of that. Now that comes later, but like in this moment, you get off this plane. They're like, run. So you like run to a bus. This bus drives you to a tent. You get in this tent. There's a bunch of chairs. You sit down, and it's like, welcome.
Everyone's playing poker.
Well, yeah, no.
Was it very anticlimactic?
It's very anticlimactic, and this like colonel comes in, and he's like, welcome. It's a different name now, but he's like, welcome to Talil Air Base. And I'm like, okay, like what's up?
Yeah.
You know? And you're like, you're gonna be, like your people will come get you, whatever. So I'm with this captain and I'm with this other airman, and the rest of the people I think were like cops, like military police. Sure. And so they're all supposed to stay, and we're supposed to leave because like this sergeant was there to pick us up, and I just sat there, and they're like, Mike, you got to come with, or they call me Lang. They're like, Lang, you got to come with. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know where to go. Yeah. I don't know what to do. I got my bags, I got my stuff. So we get in this, we go off to a tent and go to bed. I wake up in the morning. It's blistering hot. It's like 95, in the sun in the desert, and it's March maybe. So I walk out. I'm in jeans and a t-shirt because like at this time, you could still wear civilian clothing if you were off duty, even at war.
Really?
Yeah, this changes shortly after this, and I will tell you about that. So I come out of the tent, I'm wearing jeans and t-shirt, and in front of me is a bombed out building that I couldn't see at night. So I see this building, it's all bombed out, and there's a bunch of guys working on it, and they're third country nationalists that the U.S. military has brought in to do work, and that's a whole separate thing, but they pay them cheaply to do this back-breaking labor. So I'm walking out, and this guy starts screaming at me in Arabic, and I have no clue what's going on. And he's got a shovel in his hand, and he's yelling at me. And I'm like, "Hey, man, I don't know." And all of a sudden, this army guy comes out with his rifle, and he's like, "Don't worry about him. Like, just go about your business." And I'm like, "What the hell am I getting into right now?" So my adventure starts there, and I get dressed in my uniform. I go to my unit where I'm supposed to work, and we worked out of like an old bombed out building and then two giant tents put together.
Okay.
That's where all the life support stuff was. So I go there, and it's a staff sergeant and a tech sergeant who are in charge, and me. There's 3 of us to cover 24 hours.
Yeah.
So it's 8 hours a day. You gotta work every day.
Yeah.
So they look at me and they go, "Hey, what do you know?" And I was like, "Man, I've been working."
Boy, that's a great question.
Right. I've been working on oxygen equipment for the last 4 months.
Yeah.
So, like, if somebody can't breathe, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
That's it. So their eyes just get wide. And they're like, uh-oh. Per the orders, though, the orders said I was supposed to be a master sergeant. So that's somebody who's been in for 20 years. So their career, they'd know all the ins and outs of the job, whatever.
Is that what they thought your rank was?
No, that's who they thought was coming.
Okay.
And that's not who showed up.
Oh, because that was your superior that
superior was supposed to go and didn't go.
Gotcha.
But the orders never changed.
They're like, "Boy, you look really good for serving for 20 years.
You look real good. You must be real smart." So I have a meeting with the commander of our unit, who is a colonel, and he's like, "Hey, I didn't ask for you." And I was like, "Yeah,
cool. I didn't ask
to come either.
Right,
they sent me." He's like, "Well, I talked to your 2, coworkers. You want to put them that way, and you guys are gonna have to figure this out to get you up to speed as fast as possible, because like we can't have you not knowing how to do your job."
Sure.
So in about a 10-day period, I learned everything I needed to know. The backhand ways.
Like the Matrix, they just plug you
basically
right in the back of your neck and
plug you in, teach you everything you need. Basically, anything that I could encounter out on a mission or with equipment, I learned like that. Just,
How do you process that massive influx of information and then retain even a fraction of it?
Well, basically,
is that something that like you're just inherently good at, or is that a process that they have to get people to?
Well, for me personally, I'm very good at memorization, and I'm very good at repetition.
Sure.
So, and that's part because of the military, and part just because of who I was before I came in the service.
Sure.
So, like any sort of multiple choice test, I can pretty much ace. I can figure it out.
Boy,
and like
I'm
go from
the
there.
opposite.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I've heard that from people.
If I know the answer, I'll still pick the wrong one.
Because you think about it too long.
Yeah.
Right? Like I just knew how the game was played. So learning this stuff, I learned all these shorthand ways where I didn't have to read the technical manual, which is really messed up, because how all the branches operate, particularly the Air Force, though, all of these technical manuals exist, how to do this, and there's all this studies,
process,
and all this
procedure.
It's
all for safety.
Safety, yeah. And here I am cutting every corner possible while I'm at war.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's fine. Like, it'll be fine. You'll figure it out later. Like, later you'll get to actual training when you get back to the States, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And you're in your head, you sell that to yourself. You're like, okay, I can deal with this now, and I can deal with getting shot at, and I can deal with doing all this as long as I have these tools in my toolkit. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we go along, and within that 10-day period, I learned it all. I learned what I needed to know, and it got me very far. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, now I'm in it. Now I'm in the shit, and let's go. So I'm on my own. I'm 18. So the first mission, I go out on my own. I go out to a C-130, open up the doors, wait for everything to come, wait for the crew to come, and they start loading, what their mission's going to be. And it's dead Americans going home, in caskets. And I'm 18. right? This is my first real world look at mortality, right? Like before that, you're like, man, it's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to see it.
Right.
You know,
I'll be in an office somewhere.
I'll be in an office somewhere. Or
putting shit in a burn pit. I'll be...
Well, per the recruiters, I would never go to war. So
Yeah.
the recruiters sold me and my parents, oh, this is a teaching gig. Like, you're never going to go. You're going to train. You're never going to leave the States.
Sure.
Well, that's not true. 4 months after basic training, I'm at war.
Sure.
Okay. So this is my first real world experience with mortality. And I'm standing there, like, just taking it in, like the process. And you're like, okay, this is messed up. But at the same time, you can't really like stop. You got to do what you got to do. Like, I got to get my crew ready. I got to have the equipment ready. I got to have all this stuff. Make sure, you know, there's enough parachutes for everybody. Make sure there's enough life vests. Make sure there's all this equipment. Make sure all the oxygen equipment works. All this stuff so those crew members don't die.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if they've got to crash, they got to egress, I got to make sure they know what they're doing. So I go through all that, go through the checklist, do all this stuff, leave, I'm done. See ya. And later, you then process all that when you have a moment to yourself and you're like, man, that was really messed up. And I don't know what to do with those feelings.
Is that moment while you're in deployment, or is that when, you know, deployment's over, you're going back to civilian life, and then you sort of, you know, a week or two later you process it? Or is that something that...
It varies.
Okay, sure.
So, like, it can change. So that moment is just like pinhold for later.
Yeah.
Like, we'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have time to process that emotion or like panic or cry or do any of that. I'll deal with it later. And you do, and at 18, you're like, all right, I'll figure it out as I go along.
Yeah.
So as this deployment goes on, there's just more things that happen. You know, there's more getting shot at. There's more crazy stories. So, like I said, we worked out of this little tent building. One day we're coming to work and the Army MPs stop us and they say, you can't go into your area. And we're like, why? And well, we found a bomb. We found a bomb behind your building. Like, from who? Like, we worked with the brand new Iraqi Air Force. Part of our mission was to train them to do what we do. So these guys, every couple of weeks, got to go home to Baghdad. So, and it was a ragtag group of guys, anywhere from 40 years old to 60 years old. And I was probably the youngest person they had seen. There were no young men doing this, which is wild, you know, when you're looking at it in 2005. So you have no clue if these guys are going home talking to anybody. You don't know if they're...
These are Iraqi natives?
These are Iraqi natives. So you don't know. And you'd like to think, you know, like, oh man, they're friends with us. They talk with us. They joke with us. Like, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's just something that happened.
Because you don't want to think it's something nefarious or, you know...
And the fear at that point was, there was a story, you might not remember this, but in like late 2004, there was a mess hall that was blown up by a backpack bomber. A guy that worked on the base, was Iraqi national, worked on the base, mapped everything out the moments the mess hall was as full as possible, and put a bomb outside of it and killed a bunch of people. Oh my God. So in our heads, we're like, oh man, is this the same thing?
Is this that?
Is this that thing?
Yeah.
Like, who did this? Like, do we got to be careful? So now you're on really high alert, because now you're really looking at everybody suspiciously, like, oh no, like, what's going on? And right there, you're like, okay, now, you know, mortars and small arms fire happen all the time, and you're like, okay, a lot of this stuff doesn't go off. It's old Cold War era.
You sort of get
armaments.
numb to that.
You get numb to it really quickly. Like, you get really numb to small arms fire and mortar fire, rocket fire quick. You're used to it. You're used to hearing the alarms. You're used to hearing all these things. So this happens, and you're like, man, this is really messed up. So I don't remember the timeline perfectly, but a couple weeks after that, we're leaving to go to like midnight chow to get dinner.
Yeah.
And as we come out, there's a brown van, and we don't know if it's someone that was pranking us. We don't know if it was third country nationalists. They ripped the door open, and we're like, we'll take you off base. We'll take you off base. And we're like, no, we're good. We're going to the mess hall. And the guy stepped out of the vehicle, and it was dark, so I couldn't see who it was. If it was another service member playing a prank or whatever. And as soon as that happened, my buddy and we took off running.
Oh, absolutely.
As fast as we could to get to the mess hall. As we get to the mess hall, which was controlled by the U.S. Army, we're like, hey, man, there was this brown van. You know, there's no license plates.
Yep.
So you're like, hey, they jumped out. They said they were going to take us off base. I had no clue if we're going to get kidnapped or what's going on. It's pitch black. There's no street lights.
Yep.
Like, okay. So they reported in, and we go into the mess, and we sit down, and we're like, man, that's really messed up. Like, that's weird. Like, maybe it was somebody joking and having a good time. And if so, hey, all right. But like, in back, of your head, though, you're like,
A practical joke is, hey, shake my hand, and you got a little buzzer that electrocutes your hands, or someone does something to your toothbrush. Jumping out of an unmarked van in pitch black and saying, hey, come with us.
Right.
That's a threat.
Right. It's a threat because it's not even like come with us. It's like we'll take you off base.
Exactly.
I don't want to go off base. I'm sorry. Like I go off base on the aircraft.
Sure.
Like we fly missions. I'm not looking to go out and
exactly
go out into the city.
So another sort of creepy, messed up memory that you put on the shelf with all the other ones.
You put it on the shelf and you go on. And then as we continue on this deployment, again, I'm 18. I'm on somebody else's deployment. My unit leaves. And they leave Iraq to go down to Kuwaiti City in Kuwait. And they leave me there. It's like Home Alone, man. They leave me, but they willingly leave me. Like these generals, because there was a new unit coming in from Germany, U.S. unit, and they didn't bring enough life support people. So these generals, these Army generals, Air Force generals decide that I'm going to stay behind.
Okay.
Now this is news to me. I thought I'm going with my guys. Like we're packing up all our stuff. We're going down to Kuwait, and it's going to be one step closer to being home. Yep. And you're out of combat at that point, right? Like so you're like, okay, I'm out of combat, no problems. Nope, they leave me there, and they don't tell me. So my commander, who stayed with me because he was commander of that unit, who was from Little Rock, tells me, hey Lang, like you're gonna stay here for a while. We'll eventually get you down to Kuwait. And I'm like, when?
Eventually, like
when?
A couple Wednesday.
Yeah.
Eventually, like next week. Yeah. Eventually, like a month from now.
So here is where things start to get really disheartening for me into my career, where I start to see that I'm not a person, I'm a number.
Yeah.
So I start to see the email chain of an Army general, an Air Force general, and the commanders back in Little Rock talking about me as a number, how they're going to keep me out in the AOR for another 4 months. And I've already been there at this point close to 4 months.
Sure.
And my deployment was for 179 days.
What is there an average? Is there a maximum or minimum or...
So I'll get to that. So my orders were for 179 days. The reason why it's not 180, which is 6 months, is because at 180, the U.S. military has to pay you more money and give you a short tour ribbon and a medal that says you were deployed for 180 days and you could possibly pick your next duty station. They're never going to let you have that. So they cut you at 179. Minimum I've seen is like 60 days. Maximum could be a year, right? The Army is notorious for this, where they deployed guys for 365 days. That's brutal. So they tell me, you might be here another 4 months. And then I got to process this. Now I'm with people I've never met, right? I've never met these people. I have no relationships with them. I have no clue. Also, the problem is I don't really know my job. Still, I know all the shortcuts. So here are these life support people coming and looking at me like, oh, hey,
you've been here for 4 months. You should know everything.
You should know all the stuff. Like
you've also been doing this for 20 years.
Right. You've been doing this 20 years. Like everything's fine. So I'm seeing this email traffic. And the thing that gets me sent out of Iraq down to Kuwait was an Army general who I never met. I never met the man. He basically told this unit out of Germany, I don't care who you send to be a life support person, you're sending that person because this guy's got to go to his unit. And that's actually what got me sent. Not my unit, not Little Rock Air Force Base, not what happened at the unit at Toledo Air Base. It was this Army general. So he sends me down there and he's like, you're going to get on an airplane, pack all your shit. You're going. So my commander, who I give a lot of credit for, he said, I seen the email traffic in Iraq. He's like, I'm going to get you out of here. Gets me out of there. Funny story with that guy is I'd end up seeing him about a year later again while I got deployed back to Iraq. So this is all part of this. But like I'd see him again. He's like, man, I never thought I'd see you deployed again. I was like, oh no, we're in severe shit mode here where we don't have enough people. So I got sent back again. At a different base at this point in Iraq. So I get sent down to Kuwait. I spend a month in Kuwait. And I leave 4 days before my 19th birthday.
Wow.
And they wanted to keep me there longer. Like this commander, who was a fighter jet commander, was like, I'm going to keep you here. I'm like, no, man, I just spent 5 months at war. I'd like to go home. Or at least go back to the States.
Right.
And I eventually get back, and like I said, I got back 4 days before I turned 19, and I was like, "Thank God, I'm back." I didn't want to spend 2 back-to-back birthdays in just intense.
Yeah, it almost would have been.
Yeah, shitty environments, right? So I get back to the States, and I'm like, all right. And you go from this mindset of I'm now an experienced war veteran. Like, I know what it's like. I made it through. I didn't panic. I didn't freak out. I didn't cry. I didn't have all these things happen. To then being treated like a child again.
Yes.
So you go back to your stateside unit, and they don't respect you. Like, they just look at your rank, and they're like, you don't know anything. And I'm like, man, I just spent 6 months at war, essentially. Like,
What were you doing?
Yeah, what were you? You're here. You got to stay
air
here.
conditioning.
You got to stay here because you faked an injury.
Right.
And claimed you had kids. Just because I'm a single person without children at 18 years old, you can just send me to the wolves, and I survived it, and they come back and you don't give me any respect.
Yeah.
And like, this is where like all these chips just keep happening.
Sure.
Into your disillusionment with the United States military.
Yeah.
And I'm heartbroken over this. I'm upset, and then I just start to see, I'm not really respected, even though I know all this. I just did all these things, and the first thing they do, instead of like, let's go finish all that training, they shelve me back to working on oxygen equipment because they're like, oh, you're an expert at it. I'm not an expert.
Yeah.
You just put me there and made me do it on repetition over and over and over again. Like, I can do other things. I offer to do other things. Yeah. So I'm like in an unfortunate situation where, like, per the Air Force, I can't get out, but I also can't go do another job. You have to wait till a certain point till your enlistment's up to try to go and get another career.
Okay.
Like, you got to get past a 3-year mark before you can start applying for different jobs, right? And that's if they take you.
Yeah. So is all that running through your mind like, oh my God, I still have X amount of time that I have to just rinse and repeat before I can even think about?
It's there. It's because then at that point you become so angry with the system.
Yeah.
And at that point in my career, I'm like, I'm not re-enlisting. Like, I'm not staying on active duty. Like, I'm out of here. Like, I'm going to get out of here as fast as I can.
When did you start getting that feeling? Was it how many times did you deploy?
So I would I'd have 4 deployments. Okay. 3 to Iraq.
And how many years?
Under 4 years.
Okay. Boy, that's a lot.
For my active duty career, yes. So then
that sounds not normal.
Well, I got to highlight this a little bit. So I did 4 years active duty. I did 10 years total. So 4 years active. I did 4 years as a reservist, and then 2 years in the Wisconsin Guard.
Okay.
So the reserve years, I did nothing. I didn't go anywhere. I went to college. I did all that stuff. But then when I was with the Wisconsin Guard, I just was here in Milwaukee. Sure. But yeah, so on active duty in under 4 years, I had all those deployments. So I spent over 500 days in Iraq.
Wow.
Yeah, I did 2 months in Kuwait. I went to North Carolina for a little while for a stateside redeployment to do training with the Army.
Sure.
On jumping out of airplanes.
You've jumped out of an airplane?
Yeah, I jumped out of an airplane. Yeah.
What is it like?
It's thrilling.
Really?
Yeah, man, it's great. Like, gotta do it, man. I mean, you could do it as gliding around, but
I think I'm good. I'm probably good.
Straight down to the ground, man. Like, and in your head, man, you're just like, don't break your legs, don't break your legs. Yeah. Just scoot down. So
you'll
be fine.
Did every time that you would deploy, was it just a completely different experience, or were there certain threads and things that at least kind of felt familiar, or did you go into each deployment going, I've deployed before, I think I know what to expect, and then all of a sudden, this is completely different again, like starting from scratch?
Yeah.
Or no? Or am I wrong?
Some of it, no, it's different every time because you're going with different people.
Okay.
So you're not always fortunate to go with the same kind of crew.
Sure.
And how air crews work is that first base we had 3 airplanes, so we had probably 35, 36 crew members that would rotate through these missions. So you get familiar with the personalities, and you start to know everybody, and you start, you know how to work with people. You know who's a dick, you know who's nice, you know who leave alone.
Sure.
As you go to bigger bases with more people, there's more clashing of personalities, and that's not only with air crew members, it's also within your career with people with you.
Oh, I bet.
So the second deployment, I went to a base called Balad Air Base, which was like 60 miles from Baghdad. So it was the closest base to Baghdad. This would be play a very important story in the surge in Iraq. Mm-hmm. So when the surge happened in 2006 and in 2007, they basically cleaned out the green zone in Baghdad. And when they did that, where do you think all those people went that were fighting them? They went to us.
Sure.
So we just got the shit kicked out of us every day. Like every day, either there's alarm red going off, or by late 2006 and 2007, they just stopped playing the alarms. So you had no clue when you're getting shot at anymore. It just happened.
Oh my gosh.
You're just in body armor all the time. You're carrying a weapon all the time. And
just always on alert.
Always on alert, and I'm technically air crew, so I'm carrying a 9mm Beretta. Like, I'm not carrying a long gun, so what am I going to do with that? Like, unless I'm within 50 or 100 yards of the person, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah,
like, that's pointless. And how the Air Force is with munitions, you're better off just throwing the weapon and keeping the bullets and turning those back in, because they won't be mad about the weapon missing. They'll be mad about the bullets. Like, oh, here's all this paperwork you got to fill out because you used one round.
Right.
Like, ooh, I'll keep that, and I'll just throw the weapon as a paperweight. But yeah, every deployment kind of changes. So it all depends on when you know. Mm-hmm. So if you get an advance notice, you can prepare your life.
Yeah, prepare your mind.
And your mind and everything. Unfortunately, in my career, I did not have that choice. It wasn't afforded to me. I was always kind of told at the last minute, so I had to pack up my life, put my shit in storage, and go.
Put everything on hold.
And put everything on hold, and put my bills on hold, and hope like I could get all this stuff done. And then you go. And you either go on a military aircraft, or they get you on a commercial airliner to a military base, and then you get on a military aircraft. But like the last 2 deployments to Iraq, I went on a military aircraft, and that's fun to a degree. Like, you get to go cool places and kind of stop for a day or two and enjoy that before you get into combat. But it's just brutal because you have to do all these steps to get your mind right. Mm-hmm. And then as soon as you land, like going back, because I went to Balad Air Base twice. When you go back the second time, it's like nothing. You're like, I'm back in it, nothing. Yeah. And it's almost like a nightmare where like, oh, life never continued. It's just, I'm here.
Sure.
Like, and I had nightmares like that for a long time after my last deployment, where I would never really dream about the bad things that happened, like combat or seeing people with lost limbs or all this stuff. I would dream about being back in my tent, waking up thinking I'm late, and I'm like, oh man, I'm back here. I was dreaming about real life.
Yeah, like you were deployed dreaming about real life, and now you woke up from that dream.
Yeah, so the stress just keeps ratcheting up and up and up over and over again on these deployments.
Sure.
And on my last deployment to Iraq, I was with my roommate. He deployed with me. It was a guy named Chris. Shout out to Chris, man, wherever you are. I have not been in touch with this guy in like 10 years. He was like 8 years older than me, so I could like lean on him a little bit. Like, hey man, like we can lean on each other and we could take the stress off. And we were working one day, and we kind of got into just like a little tiff with each other. And in any relationship, this happens when you're with somebody every day for months on end, where it doesn't stop. It's 7 days a week, 12, 14, 15 hours a day.
Nothing you can do. You can't take a break.
Little things get to you, man. Like you're rocking in the chair. You're like, dude, you got to stop that.
That ticking noise every time you rock back.
I'm going to lose my shit.
So how does the compounding interest of all of these deployments and the last minute deployments and, finding bombs behind the tent and people jumping out of vans and just all of that stuff, at what point during your career did it finally sort of catch up to you and you're like, man, I'm like not having good thoughts?
Well, on the second deployment, like I had a moment where we get into something stupid, something happens, and I look at him and I'm like, I'll be back. I got to take a break. Like I got to go outside. And we had these shipping containers where all our gear would come through. And I opened up the shipping container. I just sit inside it, man. And I was in there for like a half hour, dude. And I'm bawling. Yeah. Like I'm bawling my eyes out because the stress broke me.
Sure.
Like the stress of everything. You have this little thing with your roommate, and I'm breaking down. Like I'm my everything. The stress is getting to me, and I'm crying. And I'm crying. I'm ugly crying. Everything's coming out of me.
Sure.
And I couldn't compartmentalize anymore. Like, cause you're full. You're just full of stuff. You're full of getting shot at. You're full of incidents.
Is it anxiety? Is it stress? Is it fear?
It's everything, man.
It's just...
It's everything, because again, at this point, you don't know where the shots are coming from.
Sure.
You don't know when they're coming. The missions don't change. Every day is the same. It's weirdly, not to joke, it's almost like being in prison.
Really?
It's the same routine
every single
day. Just all that changes are the mission times. Okay. And your only break is if you get to go out on a mission and you get to go up 10,000 feet in the air. But there's risks in that. Yeah. You're getting shot at as you take off. You're getting shot at as you land. You're seeing it all from a bird's eye view. So, like, I'm breaking down and I'm like, man, this is tough. And you can't go tell anybody because at that point, like you're at war. So you don't want to let your teammates down, your squad mates down, however you want to say it. You don't want to let them down. You don't want to be taken off the battlefield. And then you're like, I screwed them over. Now
Right.
instead of them working 12-hour days, they're working 16-hour days.
Because of me.
Because I'm not there.
Yeah.
So you kind of then you push all that down. You just push it down. And you come back to the States, and I turn 21, and I'm in Little Rock, and I'm working, and I'm angry every day. I'm pissed. I'm just pissed.
Do you even know why you're pissed, or is it just...
Not really in the moment. You don't know. I'm just tired of looking at everybody. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of doing this. The fear of being deployed again is at the back of your head. Like, I'm going to have to go back to war again to do all this. So I was drinking a lot.
Sure.
And I didn't know what was too much because I'm 21.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm seeing all my friends back home.
I mean, when I was 21, I drank too much, and I didn't get deployed four times.
But they, like, again, they're drinking for fun. They're drinking for fun.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there like, I'm drinking to go to sleep.
Right.
And I'm drinking so I don't have a nightmare.
Feel something different.
To not feel anything. And that was the main thing. So I'm like, damn, man, something's not right in my head. Like, to myself, I'm like, something's not right here. And at the time, per DOD policy, you could not come out and say you had PTSD. So after every deployment you come back, you meet with a doctor. And it's usually a group of people. And this doctor comes in, it's usually like some lieutenant colonel. And he's like, hey, everybody's going to write no on their paperwork that they don't have a mental problem here. Because at that time, you would get kicked out. If you said you had PTSD or some sort of mental issue, they're going to kick you out and you're going to lose your benefits. And you'd have to go through the whole process of fighting with the VA to get an other than honorable discharge.
Sure.
So you got all your stuff. Well,
So they incentivize you to lie.
To say you don't have a problem. And this is
Which there's just another chip at it.
And this is the pre-2009 years. In 2009, everything changed. In 2009, you could come out and say you had PTSD, and they try to get you help.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is 2007. So I go see a therapist on my own, out of my own pocket. And I'm scared shitless because I don't know what's wrong with me. And also, I don't know what to expect from a therapist.
Yeah, what are they going to tell me?
What are they going to say to me? What could be scary? You know, I don't know.
Right.
So I go and I meet with this woman and I sit down and I'm like, hey, like this can't be on my records. I can't have any of this with the military or the VA. I'll pay out of pocket.
Sure.
Great. Pay a couple $1,000, go do it. And come to find out, I'm overstressed. Like, there's nowhere for the stress to go.
Yeah.
There's no outlet. There's no one to talk to.
Right.
I couldn't go to my mentors in the service and say, hey man, we got to sit down and talk about this.
They'll report you.
Well, not even that they'll report me. They'll say, I got the same problem.
Yeah, right? Suck it up, buttercup.
Suck it up like you're in it with us.
Yeah.
Like,
you think you're the only one that
right.
fucking around with all that? Oh my God.
You think you're the only person that feels this way? No, man. Do what we do. Let's go get a cocktail.
Yeah.
Let's sit down.
Let's drink it away.
And let's not really talk about it. Let's really not talk about the issues. And you're like, damn, like, this is not how life...
Is it almost normalized to just deal with like PTSD and the stress?
At that time, it was...
Or maybe not normalized.
It's not normalized. It's the normal thing was to hide it.
Yes, I guess that's what I was...
To hide it, to not talk about it, and just to suck it up like a man.
Sure.
I always heard that. Just be a man. Well, I am being a man.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to fix my brain.
Yeah.
Because I'm afraid of something bad happening to me.
Right.
Right? You tell us in the service to take care of our bodies. How is my mind any different? How is my mind any different from physical fitness? Like, if we're supposed to do physical fitness all the time, how come my brain isn't treated the same way?
Right.
So if I feel something's wrong in my brain, how come I can't go get help?
That's
with that?
more of a liability than anything physical, in my opinion.
Right. So all of this process sits in my brain and keeps me angry. Like, I'm just angry. I'm pissed. I'm tired of being deployed. I'm tired of going to war. And I'm tired of seeing the shit that no one's talking about in our local media at that time, right? No one's talking about the surge in Iraq. Like, there's 260,000 American soldiers deployed to Iraq. And what are we getting out of it? Where's the gain?
Yeah.
Like,
nothing.
Nothing's coming out of this. And, like, yeah, there was protests in the United States, but, like, the media didn't want to talk about it because of the sense of patriotism. Like, oh, you're going to insult the soldiers if you talk about, that we shouldn't be doing this or that this is bad. And this is the unfortunate side effect of the post 9/11 years is the thank you for your service. Like, that was automatic.
Yeah.
That if you criticize the government, the Bush administration, or then later the Obama administration, or the Biden administration, or the Trump administration, you're criticizing the soldier.
Right.
You're not criticizing the government. You're criticizing the soldier. So you can't do that. Yeah. So you got to automatically have this hyper patriotism where you thank them for their service, but you don't actually do anything about it.
Right.
Right. You don't do shit because whether you're low income, middle income, high income, you always want a tax cut.
Yes.
Guess who pays for my health care? The taxpayer
Mm-hmm.
going to the VA. Same with when you're an active duty service member. Who's paying for all that? The tax
Taxpayer.
dollars are.
Yes.
So like if you want a tax cut, you're cutting my services from me. But also at the
Exactly.
same time, you want to come up and clap me on the back and
Right.
say, thank you for all that time you went to
Hashtag
war.
never forget.
Yeah.
And we're
You're a
American flag
hero.
fans. Happy 4th of July.
Right. Here's an appetizer
Do you-
at Applebee's.
Do you find that sort of, how do I phrase this? Just that callous disrespect in sort of a like behind the curtain way is more infuriating and insulting. Unless they just came up and said, we actually really don't give a shit about you. You know, the fact that they pretend like they care, is that almost worse than if they were just like, sorry, we don't actually really care. You are just a number.
It is worse. It is absolutely worse
Because they pretend like you're not a number.
Right.
That you're not, that your life isn't just expendable and,
Right.
you know, there's just another person. They pretend like that's not the thing.
And again, it's pretending that you're not an individual.
Yeah.
Right? We are individuals in a big military machine that's making that machine go forward. And you sit there and you hear this from the public and you hear it from other people, and then they're just so disingenuous about it. It's like, you don't actually give a shit about my service. You don't want to hear about the bad days. You don't want to hear about the mental trauma. You don't want to
pay for my VA visits.
Right.
You don't want to pay for my cancer and for the guys that are doing burn pits
Right.
and throwing shit in there. You know, they don't want to pay for anything or support anybody.
Well,
they want to pretend like they're...
I'll give an example about this. You remember a couple of years ago, there used to be like a social media trend of like doing push-ups or something
Yes.
for like veterans with suicide or
Sure.
veterans that commit suicide, and they'd be like, do 22 push-ups a day.
Yeah,
'cause
my
it's
buddy
funny.
does that.
Yeah, it's like, and you'd sit there and be like, okay, cool, you did push-ups. What the hell did that do?
Yeah.
Did that get you to convince the VA to hire more mental health counselors? Did that convince you to write your congressman or senator to say, hey, maybe stop giving opioids to veterans to numb them for their PTSD instead of actually getting help? Because mental health care is expensive. Like the American taxpayer and the American public doesn't want to hear that.
No.
They don't want to hear that. Even in their own lives, they don't want to hear that.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's expensive. And maybe if you got rid of the stigma around it and you got rid of all of that and we actually put like, you know, a moonshot into advancing mental health care, it'd be more affordable.
Yeah.
But you don't want to hear that.
No.
So you want to say, thank you for your service, but don't tell me your problems.
Exactly.
And the problem with this is, in my opinion, my personal opinion, is that this is an overreaction to the Vietnam War. So after the Vietnam War, with the protests and how soldiers were treated coming home, the government didn't want to see that again. Like, so, you know, this narrative is then created in the post 9/11 times of, hey, you can't criticize them. It makes you un-American if you criticize the war because you're criticizing the soldier. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, not to give current events here, but the Secretary of Defense went on television today and berated the media about that because you're criticizing the bombing, and you go, well, wait a second, we're not criticizing the soldiers, we're not criticizing the pilots. It's like, well, they feel so bad you've disrespected them. I can tell you right now, from flying so many missions and going to war, I did not give a flying fuck what the public said about me.
Right.
It didn't, or the war for that matter. It didn't hurt me. I was doing my job.
Yeah.
Like, I did what I did to keep people alive.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't worried about what the press wrote. And if they wrote good things, great. If they wrote bad things, great.
Yeah.
It wasn't my job to sit there and feel things about it.
For sure.
So if these people are saying that, that's insane.
Sure.
Like,
But I think everybody knows that when a war is criticized or a leader or someone is criticized, that they're not criticizing the soldier. You know.
oh, of course, we know that.
Right.
Like, the uniform.
That's just a story they make up to use as a straw man or a boogeyman.
Well, yeah, because they don't want you to criticize it. They
Right.
don't want you to say that the war was a failure. They don't want you to say the war in Iraq and Afghanistan were failures.
Right.
They don't want to tell you that the Vietnam War was a failure.
Right.
They don't want to tell you that the police actions in Korea didn't work.
Right.
Right. They just want to say, if you do that, you're criticizing the men and women that went to war.
How dare you?
How dare you do that to them, because they've sacrificed so much.
Right.
True, we have. We
Right.
did. We sacrificed everything. We sacrificed money. We sacrificed our lives. We sacrificed our mental health, our physical health, all of these things.
Oftentimes your families.
All of that. And what did I get in return for it? pennies.
Right.
When you come to find out that defense contractors made billions of dollars doing the same exact jobs that we did, and I never got a slice of that pie, and you can then say, well, you could have did that. Sure, I could have after the fact.
Yeah, right. I could have invested in Apple stock too back in 1984.
Right. Right. Why should I have to do that? Why can't the service members be paid a non-poverty level wage for serving their country?
And if you really support the troops and you really support Never Forget, then you should be for a tax increase on your paycheck to pay our service members and our veterans what they fucking deserve.
Well, I hear this often from people, around the country when I talk to veterans, and they'll be like, "Oh, I got a relative that's a veteran and he goes to the VA, but our VA sucks." And I'm like, well, I live in Milwaukee. The VA Milwaukee's fantastic. It's one of the better VAs in the nation. I was like, that should be, the status quo.
Ubiquitous.
Like, that should be.
You should never hear someone say that VA sucks.
You should never hear that. And you should say, well, there should be the funding to get those doctors, to get those people to do all that, which there's not. And I get it. Some people live in rural communities and there's not easy access to those hospitals, but there should be some way to do so.
Exactly.
And instead we kick the can down the road repeatedly over and over and over again. And then it goes, well, when there's an incident where it's like, oh, doctors get caught giving too many opioids to soldiers and then they end up killing themselves because they're hooked, or they get hooked on drugs, and then they're like, well, that's just because you're weak. No, it's because you put me down that path.
Exactly.
And you told me that this was going to make me better, and I trusted you because you're my doctor, and now all of a sudden I'm hooked on Percocet, whatever, and now you cut me off that. Now I'm looking for street drugs because I need something.
Exactly.
I had a buddy that went through this. He killed himself. He committed suicide. And it's like, I remember seeing this.
Right.
Like, and it's like, hey man, we got to get you off this stuff. And it's like, nah, like I'm on this now. And then when the VA stops, it's like, well, I'm not going to go to the VA anymore.
Yeah.
Why? Well, they cut me off. Well, maybe that's a good thing. Like, go see a therapist. Nope, not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, like
this is where there needs to be intervention in just a way to be an access point and make it easy for veterans to get help, to get care, to get the right medicine, not medicine that's going to make their fucking life worse. They already got PTSD and all this stuff going on, and then now we're going to go pump them for some addictive drug on top of it.
And that's why, again, I've been talking about PTSD probably since about 2009. I had a professor in college that really convinced me to talk about my experiences at war and just like let people know. And I've done a couple podcasts over the years. I've done interviews over the years, and I'm not shy of that. Like, I'm not shy to tell you about the dark moments and what's happened and how hard it's been at times. Like, there are things that trigger you in life. Like, I can't do fireworks. I can't go shoot weapons anymore. I can't do those things because it messes with my brain too much. So I know that. Like, but also I've worked with a therapist, for nearly a decade on these things, talked about it, gotten through these things, and I'm a fortunate one. Yeah. Right? Like, and maybe that's a place of privilege. And I've went out of my way, but I've told numerous veterans and soldiers, like, hey, like, if you don't feel comfortable, start journaling. Yeah. Start writing this stuff down, get it out of you. And then if you start feeling a little bit more comfortable, share that with somebody. Sit down in a no judgment zone and be like, hey, I need to talk about these things. I need to talk about what's bothering me. I need to do this. Because for you, it's going to be more therapeutic. You're going to feel better. You're going to do these things. Take these little steps going forward. And as a society, we're not doing that. We convince people to not talk about their feelings, not talk about their emotions.
Especially if you're a man.
Especially if you're a man. Be a man. Don't do these things. Don't talk about your feelings. It's unmanly of you to, cry and do these things. Like, no, get that off your chest and start talking about particularly in these high stress environments. Like, you as a human being are not meant to do these things. Yeah. You're not a robot. You're not a robot, and you're not meant to go to combat and go to war and feel this every single day for 170 days straight. Right. And then come back to the United States and be expected to go back to normal life.
Yeah, normal life. Go through the drive-through, have people cut you off in traffic. All those little annoyances that sort of someone like me takes for granted isn't the word, but someone that has been in a combat zone and has been deployed, that kind of shit can be triggering, disrespectful,
it can get to you. You can get under your skin where you're just like, man, do you know
this? That never would have flown, when I was in combat.
Right. Or just like, do you know what I've been through? Like, you're in a rush. I'm not in a rush. Why are you in a rush? Like, take your time.
I'll show you what a rush is when we're running from bullets. We're running from bombs going off.
And you're running from this stuff happening, or in the cases of like really bad things happening. Like people panic. And I'd like to think that, I'm a cool, level-headed person in a moment of high stress. Like that's one of the things I have had, on my shoulders ever since I was a soldier is I can compartmentalize all this and get through it. And I remember a time while I was deployed in 2006 where a Russian airliner crashed at my base, right outside the base. 60 people died. And I remember everybody panicking that this happened. And I just kind of sat there and I'm like, well, what's the story behind all this? And I had lived with the air traffic controllers on this base at that time, and they told me they wouldn't listen. The pilots wouldn't listen to them. They wouldn't. They told them they couldn't land. It was too overcast, couldn't see. And the air traffic, they're shook, right? These people just died. And the guy's like, I told them not to land.
Yeah.
And now they're dead. Like they wouldn't listen. So, and you have everybody else
That'll
panicking.
fuck you up in the head.
And they'll mess with you as you sit there and you go, these people died for no reason,
right.
Just because you wouldn't listen. You thought I know better,
right.
And that's an unfortunate side effect of being at war. And when you're at war for so long, you're like, I know better than you. I can do this. I could do whatever. And it's like doesn't work like that. You still got to be like in the moment and be like, you got to listen. You got to pay attention. You got to do these things, and it's just part of that life that you don't see in normal life. We don't see that here.
No,
you're not fenced in. You're not living in tents. You're not living, these basic meals. You're not in 120 degree heat. You're not in body armor. You're not in helmets. You're not, carrying a weapon. And then you come back home, and the routine.
Wild West.
and it's a Wild West, right? There's no routine anymore. It's just come to work, do your job for 8 to 10 hours, and go home and go back to feeding yourself, doing your own things, and then figure out how to get through a normal sleeping routine, a normal life routine, and that's where you get stuck, because you can't get back easily. And from my perspective, I spent nearly all of 2006 deployed. So like I came home for 2 months and then I went right back. And you're like, I just got that little taste of freedom. And then you're back at war and you're like,
would you almost have rather not come back to civilian life and just done the year?
Yeah, it would have been much easier
versus getting that taste.
Yeah.
And then being like, fuck, man, I don't want to go back.
And you're like, well, and then it's dropped on you because in your mind you're like, I'm not going back. I'm good. Somebody else will go. And then they come to you 2 months later and they're like, well, you're going right back.
And things are just getting normal.
And
maybe
like,
you got a couple nights of sleep.
Yeah, maybe you got back to normal and you're not
reconnected with some friends,
right.
and
well,
then all of a sudden,
also maybe you did a vacation, right? Because again, I'm stationed at a different base, so maybe I came home and I got to see my family and friends, and you're like, oh man, now I'm going back. Like shit, I just got here. Like I just got back here.
Yeah.
And then you do all that. You come back. It's 2007. I come back. And again, I'm this experienced combat veteran at that time. And you go, and you start to tally. You're like, man, I got over 500 days deployed in under 4 years. That's insane.
Yeah.
And then you go talk to pilots, people that pilot aircraft. And you go, hey, how many days deployed do you have over this career? And it's like, that was my 60-day deployment I did. And I'm like, I got 500.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you got more days deployed than most pilots do. And I'm like, yeah. Think about that for a second. So when I left active duty, I was really disgruntled, man. I didn't want anything to do with them. I wanted nothing to do with those folks.
Sure.
I was like, they wanted to throw me like a going away party. And they're like, we're going to miss you. You're so well experienced. I'm like, yeah, you're damn right I'm well experienced.
Yeah.
I learned everything at war.
Yeah.
Under high stress. I learned it all. And I brought it back to the States, which was detrimental to my career in certain ways because I didn't learn by the book.
Yeah.
Like I learned all these fast ways. But it also put me in this place where I knew my shit. And you weren't going to walk in there and be like trying to test me on something. Be
Right.
oh, how does this work? Like, man, I got it down pat. Don't mess with me.
Sure.
Go mess with somebody else.
Sure.
And I had this conversation at the end of 2007, which was very insubordinate, with a superior. There was a rumor flying around that they were going to send me back to Iraq, like December of 2007. And I left Little Rock Air Force Base May 1st, 2008. So that window is short, like very short. And I'm like, man, I don't want to roll the dice. And now something really bad happens to me, like lose a limb, die, whatever. Yeah. I'm like,
on this last one.
So I walk into this guy's office and I go, sir, I heard a rumor that you're going to send me back. And he's like, well, Lang, we've been kicking it around. You're so well experienced. You know what you're doing. We'd like to send you back out to war. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'm not going. Like, well, if you're a conscientious objector, like, we're going to have a serious conversation. I said, where did I ever say that? I'm just not doing it.
Yeah.
You got enough people now. We were well overstaffed at this point. I said, you can go ruin some other airman's career.
Right.
Honestly, go ruin someone else's career, because I'm leaving.
Yeah, you ruined mine.
You ruined mine. I was blunt about it. I was like, you ruined mine. Maybe you didn't personally, but I'm holding you accountable for this, because you're trying to send me back.
Right.
I got over 500 days deployed now, and you want to send me again?
Right.
Right at the end, as I'm seeing the light at the tunnel here, at the end of the tunnel, like, no way. So I don't go. They send another guy. Great. He goes off to war. They come back. They're fine. Nothing bad happened to them. Great. Okay. So I leave active duty, and I'm in the reserves now, and I move back to Milwaukee to go to college, and I'm like, this is great.
Yeah.
But there's always that fear in the back of your mind that they're going to call me back.
Something's going to happen. They need soldiers. We're short. They didn't make the quota.
They didn't do whatever. They're going to need you
You're in the reserves.
back. And until you hit 36, they can call you back at any time.
Oh, my God. How old are you?
I'm 39. Well, I'll be 39 in July. So they can't call me back, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Do you still worry, though?
Oh, yeah.
World War III? You know, something happens with Iran, World War III.
With all the stuff going on right now, yes. I always worry, man. I always worry, because ever since about 2006, the military has had a recruitment problem.
Yeah.
Because the press was so negative about the Iraq war and the Afghanistan war, and it's just, there was never any, like, goal. Like, what were the actual goals?
It's not like what World War II was, where, the goal was to stop the end of the world from happening.
Right, but even then it was like, okay, we did the regime change in Iraq. We gave them a new, had them put in a new government, do all these things. But then we were expected to always just be there.
Yeah.
And then in Afghanistan,
definitely occupy.
It was like the Wild West, which thankfully, so when I left Little Rock, my unit went to 8-month deployments in Afghanistan. And I am so thankful to this day that I never went there.
Wow.
Because my mentor, a guy named Carlos, he went there and he nearly died.
Ugh.
A mortar dropped at his feet. And he said he shit his pants. And I'm sorry if that didn't happen, but like, shit his pants, and it didn't blow up. But it was like, that's eye-opening. Like, your life flashes before, he told me, it's like, the life flashed before my eyes.
Yeah.
I saw my childhood, and then it's just like,
you can walk
away slowly.
I appreciate you coming on this show and just being so open and honest and vulnerable about this stuff, because I think the listeners are really going to get at least a glimpse of how just these handful of stories. I'm sure you have hours and days and weeks of stories that you go on.
Hundreds, yeah.
But just the compounding interest of all these little things, and just sort of the disdain you have for the military over each deployment and coming back and then being pushed out and all this stuff. How over time it just fucks with you, and you're just filled with anxiety, with worry, with frustration, with disdain, with all these things, and you don't know what to do with it. And you can see why all of a sudden, if you don't have access to care, you can drink or do drugs and just go down this rabbit hole, and see why, suicide rates amongst veterans are 1.5 times that of regular people. The alcohol abuse, the drug use, all of that stuff, why that's a thing and why it has to be talked about and why we have to do something about it. There's no reason the richest country on planet Earth should not be able to take care of the people who for almost 250 years have kept this country safe and have given us the freedoms. The least we can do is make sure that when they come back, that they get any help they need, any resources they need.
And there's no stigma. There's no stopping them.
Yes.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. If you go back and you look at how the VA's operated and how they've done and this is a current example, they're cutting care from the VA to cut funding to save money, right?
Yeah.
Under the Doge Boys program. And it's like, who's that going to impact? It's going to impact the service member, the service member that needs that care.
Yeah,
so then
the people who say support the troops.
So then if you say support the troops, but you're not supporting the troops, you're taking that away. Mm-hmm. And you're saying, oh, well, you're not afforded that care now. We're going to take that. Like, I went in February and March, I had checkups with the VA, and my doctor tells me, hey, I'm afraid of these buyout programs because it's not us that's going to be affected. We'll leave if we'll get another job somewhere else. It's my service members that come in here. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that need the care. Mm-hmm. And we're talking veterans from World War II all the way to today that need that care, that need to get in there. And if you're not going to provide that, what happens? What do you leave those people to? And this is why
we know the answer to that.
We know the answer to that. You leave people to very desperate times, and they're going to do desperate things, and it's going to hurt them, hurt their families, hurt their friends, hurt society, all of this stuff. And I get really tired of hearing that, oh, thank you for your service. Well, pay your taxes and then demand that the VA actually do its job and demand that you're not going to cut these services so these service members can have these benefits. It's not right to do that and then try to, like, the 4th of July comes or Veterans Day comes or Memorial Day comes and you want to say all this stuff, but you don't actually
wave your flag around and put out sparklers, but maybe you voted for some politician, a senator or a president or whoever who voted against supporting the troops, But
even then, you want to use us as a stand-in.
Sure.
You don't actually want to talk to us. Right. And this has been my biggest gripe with current events is, where are any Iraq war veterans, Afghanistan war veterans on television right now with the stuff going on? Where is anybody? Are you going to talk to us, or are you just going to let people on TV talk, or are you going to let the government talk over and over and over again?
And push out their propaganda.
And push out what they want, and then say things like, oh, if you criticize us, you're criticizing the pilots. You're not criticizing the pilots.
Right.
Because how our society currently operates is it's always going to be, thank you for your service.
Yep.
Always. It has not been broken yet. And I thought maybe with the parade that happened in D.C., that this was going to flip it on its head, that the first time you would see people in this country since Vietnam booing soldiers in the streets, because I was like, man, that's going to do some real damage to the country's psyche, because they haven't seen this. I mean, people in our generation haven't seen this. The Vietnam War era veteran, they saw it because the public was so upset with what happened in Vietnam. The Iraq War veteran, the Afghanistan War veteran has not seen that, has not experienced that. And maybe, fortunately, they haven't, because it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking when you start reading these accounts, right or wrong. You can be mad at the government. It doesn't mean you have to take it out on the soldiers, particularly the ones that were drafted.
Right.
That's not their fault.
Right.
Like, take it out on the government. Again, so seeing that, it put a little caution in my brain, like, man, is this going to break the post 9/11 era of thank you for your service and every service member is a hero?
Yeah.
Not everybody's a hero. Come on, like, let's get real here.
Sure.
Like, you're doing your job, you're doing the best you can. Like, that's it. But there's also bad people. There's bad people in every job, but there's also bad people in the military, and we don't ever want to have that conversation, that there are criminals out there are drug users out there, there's everybody.
Yeah.
Or there's just shitty people that don't do their jobs.
Yeah. And
they just coast by for 4 years and they get their benefits, and that's great. Hey, fine. If the mechanisms don't exist to remove those people, that's where we're at. But, like, I just get tired of hearing that and then not doing anything about it when you can actually do something about it.
Right.
Every citizen in this country could do something about it.
Right.
If they actually cared, and that's what it comes down to, care.
Yep.
If they actually cared about the service member and their mental health, physical health, whatever, they wouldn't be asking the people they voted for to cut disability payments.
Right.
Or to go back and renegotiate disability payments.
Right.
Or to say, I'm sorry, we got rid of that whole department within the VA, so you can't go there anymore.
Right.
Then what?
Right.
So you'd rather have me dead, because then you don't have to pay for me. That's really what it comes down to.
That's the shadow goal.
That is the goal. And I had a I won't say who it was, a person that ran and is in government now. When they ran the first time in like 2007 or 2008, tell me to my face that the only reason more people survived in Iraq and Afghanistan is because modern medicine got better than World War II, World War I, all these things, Vietnam. And I looked at this guy, and it's like, the tourniquet hasn't changed.
Right.
Right? Like, yes, we've gotten these people back faster, but, like, you're just saying more of us should have been in the meat grinder.
Yeah.
And not survived.
Right.
Like, that's insulting. That's so insulting to say to someone that went to war. Like, why would you say that to me?
Right.
Like, oh, well, we didn't go full in. I hate this argument, too. We didn't go full in Iraq. Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
We took all the people we could out of Afghanistan and put them in Iraq to the tune of nearly 300,000 soldiers.
We doubled down.
And we doubled down. And you're telling me we didn't? Like, come on. Don't, like, I hate this revisionist stuff. I really do. It really gets under my, because I was there.
Yeah.
And I saw the country flooded with U.S. soldiers. And I'm like, okay. But again, the goal, it comes back to the goals. In the end, if you actually care about your service members, the goal should be to make sure they're healthy. Because in reality, when you leave the military, they're supposed to let you out the way you came in. Like, they're supposed to repair you to the best of their ability to put you back in civilian life.
Yep.
Then most of the people come out and they go into civilian life and they're damaged. They're broken. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And then they go to the VA and the VA says, oh, man, we don't have a mental health care unit. And you go, what do you mean?
How?
And then 2009, things change and they say, okay, you can come out and talk about PTSD. They still don't do it.
Yeah.
So now what? Like, again, you're in this vicious cycle that still has not gotten better in 20 years.
Yes.
Think about that. 20 years since I first deployed. It hasn't changed. It hasn't gotten better. It hasn't gotten worse, but it hasn't gotten any better. Like, we could
That's
do
not
it.
a high bar to...
It's not a high bar. But, like, we can do it, and we just choose not to.
The infuriating thing and frustrating thing about it is it takes one of the most accessible resources to make a difference, and that's just money. We spend $1 trillion on our military budget, and you're telling me we can't find what we need to supply the VA and pay physicians and doctors and mental health experts and psychiatrists and all this stuff. We spend all this money.
We spend about $1 trillion.
We got rockets that can land by themselves, but we can't figure out.
We spend $1 trillion a year in defense, and
Yeah.
you can't tell me that there isn't money to pump into the VA. And then they'll come
There
back
is.
and say there's
They just don't
fraud
wanna.
and abuse. Come on,
Yeah.
come on.
They
I
just-
would sit down. I would sit down with anybody and say, come on, like. Have you been in the VA? I have. I go for all my care. When I got bit by the dog on the job, I went to the VA.
Yeah.
I did all that with the VA, and I'm grateful to do so because they have some great physical therapy, like departments because of wounded warriors, right?
Yeah.
Like guys that lost their limbs, they're great care for that. But the mental aspect, like we have to get better at that, and we need to demand that as a society.
Absolutely.
Like if you really want to thank us, do that.
Yep.
Like I don't want you to come and pat me on the back on the 4th of July and say, "Oh, I'm so grateful for your service." Are you? Are you really?
Mm-hmm.
Like I always came back to this during my time when I was a soldier, and people would say to me, "Oh, you kept us all free," and I was like, "Free from who? Like, what did you lose?
Right.
What did you lose in that time? Like, yes, the country was scared to fly on airplanes and do all this post 9/11, but like, what did you lose? You really didn't lose anything. There's no draft. Your kids didn't get drafted.
Right.
You didn't lose them. Like, if they enlisted, great. If they didn't, great. Like, I come back to that over and over again where I'm like, man, I don't like hearing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could shake my hand and I'll be nice and I'll be friendly, but it's like, if you go any further than that, I might blow up on you.
Yeah, right.
I might lash out if you start. I had this happen one 4th of July. This family member just kept egging me on about the war and saying all these things, and I'm like, do you actually care?
Yeah.
Do you? Like, because you wouldn't listen to me at the time.
Right.
You wanted to hear what was ever on the news or on TV or on some pundit. You didn't want to hear from my point of view what was happening and the amount of money that was wasted, the billions of dollars in defense contractors that came out later in 2010, 2011. And guess what? The public did nothing with it.
Right.
They didn't demand Congress to go claw that money back and actually give it back to the taxpayer. Mm-hmm. They get away with it. Like, again, if you care about us, spend the money.
Right.
And figure it out and demand your elected representatives to go and take care of their service members. And like, it's not as simple as just cutting a check. Like that, I hate that too. Like, oh, we should give every veteran $1 million.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't fix the health care problem,
Exactly.
which is also mental health care.
Exactly.
It doesn't fix that. Like, money doesn't fix everything. Money can help you get places.
It can
open
fund
doors.
a solution, but it can't fix a problem.
Right. So instead, how about we talk about actually fixing the problems and talking about PTSD and how it appears in numerous ways for people. Like I had to deal with anxiety, had to deal with depression, had to deal with nightmares. Some people don't have that. Some people have different. They have more severe because they maybe lost a friend in front of them. Maybe they lost their leg. Maybe they have a brain damage, all this like that. It all manifests differently. Mm-hmm. That's why it's not a one-step solution where it's like, oh, just take a pill and be fine. Yeah. I'm sorry. It doesn't work like that. That's why I've always been an advocate for therapy. Like, you got to find the therapist first of all, which is hard work. And then you got to figure out through that relationship what the course is.
Absolutely.
It's not easy.
Dynamic problems require dynamic solutions. And
again, our society has convinced us that there needs to be an easy solution, not a hard one, and not a difficult one, and not one
that it requires a lot of nuance
and a lot of nuance and a lot of like little adventures to go through it, and you have to learn and work at it, and it's not easy, and we just get stuck thinking that there's this one-step solution for everything. Like, oh, just take a Tylenol, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
no,
that's not
man, it doesn't work like that. It
Mike,
doesn't work.
I appreciate you coming on the show and talking about this stuff. I know we've talked about a lot of this in private, but it really means a lot that you came on the show, and we're very vulnerable, and I'm really hoping that people take something away from this and really support the troops in the way that they deserve to be.
Right. And that's what it comes down to. Support the troops. You know, you can support the troops. You can do all this. You can wave your flags. You can do all these things. You can criticize the government. It's not criticizing me.
Sure.
I don't feel criticism that way. Again, don't let these people bully you into thinking you can't talk about complex issues and it's going to somehow bully the service member or hurt their feelings.
Right.
Like, they're not thinking about it. You think the guy that's wearing the uniform now is thinking about that? Absolutely not.
Right.
So, no, I'm glad that we get to talk about this because it needs the stigma needs to go away.
For sure, for sure.
It needs to go away.
Thanks, man. Hey, where can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky now and Instagram, both under Mikey Rock Slang. We'll put a link in.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description.
But yeah, that's where you can find me. Find me there, and you'll see military posts, PTSD posts.
Bucks posts.
Bucks. Let's get in the Buck season. Martin and I will be losing our minds.
I love you, dude.
I love you too, man. Thank you for having me.